Hi guys, welcome to chapter 6. Two short sections for chapter 6. We're going to start with section A today, all about bacteria. So we've got similar structures with all the different bacteria that we see here. They keep in mind that they're prokaryotes, okay, meaning they don't have a nucleus. So you can kind of see their DNA is just kind of gathered, hanging out. It might be spread out throughout the cell itself, might be gathered in the middle, but it is not contained in a nucleus, okay? We also get these things known as plasmids within the bacteria, and it's little extra pieces of DNA. Sometimes there's circular pieces, and those can be transferred from bacteria to bacteria. Sometimes it codes for being antibiotic resistant, just different things, easier pieces of DNA to transfer, okay? Bacteria does contain ribosomes, okay? Remember, DNA is a code for proteins, and so that's largely what bacteria is going to do. It's making proteins, so it has its own ribosomes to make proteins, okay? There are several coats to the structure of a bacteria. Like plants, a bacteria has a cell membrane and a cell wall, but then there's this capsule on the outside that's just kind of this slimy coating that prevents the bacteria from drying out. It's just an extra layer of protection, okay? And then some bacteria, not all, have this little tail thing coming off of it. It's called a flagella or flagellum, plural and singular. Some have that, and it just whips around like a tail, and it allows the bacteria to move wherever it wants, okay? There are three main shapes of bacteria. There's more than this, but just three basic ones for our purposes. There is the bacillus shape, or bacilli, which is plural, and that's the rod shape. That's these green ones here, okay? And a common bacillus-shaped bacteria would be E. coli. It's the bacteria that causes a common type of food poisoning. Then there's the coccus shape, or cocci, for plural, and that's the spherical shape, these little blue round structures. I got my little stuffed Staphylococcus aureus. You may have heard of something known as a staph infection. This little guy causes staph infection. There's also Streptococcus. That Streptococcus pyogenes is the bacteria that causes strep throat. And then finally, we get the spirillum, or the spirilla for plural, bacteria. That's these little red spiral-shaped bacteria. And one example that I could find was spirillum minus, and it causes this disease known as rat bite fever. Wild. There's lots and lots of different bacteria with these combination of names, okay? So how do bacterial cells reproduce? Well, since they have their own DNA, and their own ribosomes, they undergo a process very similar to cell division. The process is known as binary fission, and it's kind of a simplified version of mitosis. So the DNA replicates, it copies itself inside or one of the cells, and then the cell will just divide. It will just automatically go through cytokinesis, and you wind up with two identical daughter cells, okay? Now, this can happen very quickly. This can happen every 20 minutes if conditions are perfect, which is kind of rare. If a single bacteria is able to double every 20 minutes after a single day, I put 1 hour, I meant 1 day, sheesh, you would have 5 sextillion bacteria. That's a 5 with 21 zeros after it. That blob of bacteria would weigh 4.5 tons. But obviously that doesn't happen. Our whole world would have been taken over by bacteria by now. This only happens when conditions are just ideal for them. In a lot of situations, the bacteria is actually going to be living inside this thing known as an endospore. And it's a protective casing that basically protects that DNA. It keeps it functional until conditions improve. This is more for extreme conditions, extreme dryness, extreme heat, extreme cold, some kind of adverse condition for the bacteria, okay? And again, this is in 1 day, not 1 hour. My bad. All right, so we find bacteria all around us, okay? Decomposers are things, they're organisms that break down other organisms. Bacteria is an example of a decomposer. Organic material decays, it rots. Okay, if you have a piece of fruit that stays out too long, it starts to smell and it starts to rot. Your trash starts to smell. That's the bacteria starting to break that that material down. Okay, dead animals will eventually kind of become part of the soil again. Dead plants will become part of the soil. So these decomposers are what are helping break down a lot of extra product. They also help in recycling because they break apart the material. Our own digestion is aided by bacteria. Good bacteria actually helps us have a healthy digestive system, helps us poop normally. Okay, actually, if you don't have the good bacteria in your intestines, you tend to actually have diarrhea. Fun fact. Again, good bacteria is plentiful, and our bodies actually have a lot of good bacteria, and it works along with our immune system. The good bacteria can fight off some of the bad bacteria that gets into our bodies. Okay. We also find bacteria in the soil, which is why sometimes when we cut ourselves, it becomes infected because that bacteria can get into the cut, but that bacteria serves a purpose in the soil. The nitrogen that's in the air around us can't actually get into the plants. The plants can't use the nitrogen that's in the atmosphere. They need nitrogen to be fixed, and the bacteria in the soil fix the nitrogen in the soil, and then it can be absorbed through the roots of the plant. Okay. All right, so there's this group of animal called ruminants. Most animals, including humans, cannot digest cellulose. It just goes right through our digestive system without being broken down. It's a nutrient, but we don't get any nutrition from it because our body can't digest it. Ruminants are a type of animal that have kind of a secondary stomach, and it's filled with a specific type of bacteria that can break down cellulose. Cows are a ruminant. A lot of cattle and horses as well. Okay, that's why they can eat all that plant material. They can eat all that grass, chew on all that stuff, and the cellulose gets broken down, and that is their main source of nutrition. A huge benefit, I guess, of bacteria, of good bacteria, is in food production. Anything that is fermented. Okay, there are fermented like vegetables. Beer and wine goes through a fermentation process that uses bacteria. Pickled foods, sourdough bread uses a bacteria specifically called Lactobacillus sanfranciscensis, and that is a specific bacteria that kind of gives that sour flavor to the sourdough. Sourdough bread started in San Francisco, that's why it's named that. Cheese and salami both use bacteria. The production of cheese, any cheese, uses bacteria. Different bacteria give the different flavors. They cause a slightly different production. Yogurt contains good, healthy bacteria for us. So if you're ever on antibiotics, those antibiotics that fight the bad bacteria also fight the good bacteria that's in our tummies. And so the Activia yogurt, the probiotics, you maybe have heard of that, will help replace that good bacteria. Olives and soy sauce are produced with bacteria as well. All right, so we get all these different kinds of diseases that can come from bacteria. A lot of diseases that we really don't worry about much anymore because we either have, vaccines to fight against them, or we just are aware of them, and so we can prevent the spread of them very easily, okay? Mostly where we see bacterial infections is in these infected wounds, okay? If you do cut yourself, it's important to wash it, clean it out so the bacteria can't get in there. There's a lot of bacteria in our mouths. When we eat sugar, the bacteria feed on the sugar and produce more bacteria, and then that can cause tooth decay. So those bacteria are eating the enamel in our teeth, and they thrive on the sugar. That's why it's important to brush your teeth and floss. But then that decay causes cavities. Again, lots of diseases caused by bacteria. Already kind of skipped ahead to that. Antibiotics. This is a special type of medication that is specific to fighting bacteria. So if your doctor knows you have strep throat, they will put you on antibiotics. A lot of ear infections are caused by antibiotics. So they will put you on, they're caused by bacteria, so they'll put you on antibiotics. Different food poisonings can be caused by bacteria. It gets into the food, or the food is too old, it hasn't been stored properly, hasn't been cooked properly, and so the bacteria can get onto that. And some other just common diseases caused by bacteria would be the tetanus, the strep throat, and the flesh-eating disease. That's a type of a staph infection, okay? Just some fun facts, because why not? There are 30,000 named species of bacteria, but there's countless other species that have yet to be discovered and named. If I put 31 zeros after a 1, that's how many bacteria there are on Earth. I don't even know what that number is, okay? If I laid those bacteria end to end, it would stretch for 100 million light years. So a single light year is the distance light can travel in a year. It's an incredibly long distance, so that would be really far. I don't know how far. There are 100 million times as many bacteria in the ocean as there are stars in the sky. The ocean is just teeming with bacteria. You should definitely shower after going into the ocean, okay? Our bodies have 30 trillion cells in them. We have 39 trillion bacteria in our body. We have more bacteria in our body than we have cells in our body. That's just wild. They're a lot smaller than the cells, though. Most of it, though, is in our digestive system. Most of it is in poop, okay? If we had a single gram of poop, there would be, one with 11 zeros after it, of bacteria in that single gram of poop. Wild, crazy, huge numbers. Good thing they're so small. Good thing our immune systems work so well. Good thing we wash our hands regularly to get the bacteria off of there, right? All right.